El 22 de noviembre de 1963 fue asesinado el 35 presidente de los Estados Unidos de América, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Documentos TV les ofrece un excepcional reportaje, J.F.K, mi autobiografía, ganador de un Emmy especial, premio que concede anualmente la Academia de Artes y Ciencias de la Televisión Norteamericana. Este programa es una de las mejores recopilaciones de imágenes y palabras inéditas del hombre que simbolizó una generación y cuya muerte conmovió al mundo.
Creo que las dos únicas fechas en las que la mayoría de la gente recuerda dónde estaba son Pearl Harbor y la muerte del presidente Franklin Roosevelt. Hace 2 años dije que me presenté en París diciendo que era el hombre que había acompañado a la señora Kennedy a París. Ahora estoy teniendo una sensación muy parecida al viajar por Texas. Hace poco he oído comentar que si ocupo la presidencia durante 1 o 2 mandatos, cuando termine me encontraré a una edad que podría definirse como difícil. Demasiado viejo para empezar otra carrera y demasiado joven para escribir mis memorias. Nací en Boston, Massachusetts, en 1917. Tengo 8 hermanos y yo soy el segundo. Los demás vienen muy seguidos. Fui a la Devotion School, que es un colegio de Brookline, en Massachusetts. Y luego, cuando nos trasladamos a Nueva York, fui al colegio Riverdale, que estaba en la ciudad donde vivíamos. Y más tarde al colegio Choate, que era una escuela primaria de Wallingford, Connecticut. Éramos 4 chicos y 5 chicas. Es estupendo crecer en el seno de una familia numerosa. Creo que tiene muchísima importancia. Creo que no es posible tener 9 niños en una casa si no hay una figura de autoridad un poco rígida. Mi padre se encargó de ello, pero en su justa medida, y creo que a todos nos sentó muy bien.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we're indeed pleased to have with us in our studios Mr. John F. Kennedy, son of Ambassador and Mrs. Joseph P. Kennedy. Tell me, Mr. Kennedy, where did you go to school?
Well, I attended Harvard. I just finished there this June.
And what are you studying at the present time?
Well, I studied international relations there, and I plan to go on to law school for the next 3 years and study law at Yale University.
And may I ask, what are your plans for the future?
Well, I don't know exactly yet. I'm interested more or less in working sometime in my life for the government, but I haven't really decided as yet.
I was not very active in politics at Harvard, and I don't think that there was any indication that I was going to adopt it as a career. But I'm not sure that that is surprising. I don't think that politicians at college and school necessarily ever turn out to be politicians.
You're the heir to really one of the country's great fortunes, one of the greatest. Matter of fact, when you were 9 years old, I believe it was, $1 million was settled on you. and in view of the great fortune, you might well have turned to a life of ease, pleasure-seeking, spent between Palm Beach, let us say.
Well, I must say that I think a life of complete leisure is the hardest work of all. So I didn't feel that I could take on that assignment.
Vivir junto al mar. Creo que todos los que podían iban en esa dirección. Yo pasaba mucho tiempo navegando en barcos. Por eso cuando parecía que se aproximaba la guerra, a mí me interesó entrar en la Marina. Y luego, cuando acabó la guerra, quedó un puesto vacante de representante en el Congreso del distrito donde yo vivía.
One man stands ready to serve you as congressman for the next 2 years. His name is John F. Kennedy.
La primera vez que entré a formar parte del Congreso en 1946, representaba un distrito de Massachusetts muy pobre. Mi abuelo lo había representado 50 años atrás. Mi padre había salido de ese distrito, igual que mi madre. Teníamos muchos problemas. La vivienda, muchas familias necesitaban asistencia. Creo que cuando uno se convierte en representante de la gente, en su portavoz, debe asumir la obligación de ayudar a la gente que necesita asistencia. Bien porque necesitan buenos colegios, si son jóvenes, o porque están enfermos cuando son ancianos, o porque su vivienda es inadecuada. En realidad, mi postura sobre la necesidad de una legislación social la desarrollé de forma pragmática mediante la observación únicamente. Creo que el único modo de mantener una sociedad libre es cubriendo las necesidades de la gente, creando un clima en el que la economía pueda funcionar.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk to you very briefly today about a problem of tremendous importance to all of us who live here in Massachusetts. In this country, in the last years, we have solved 2 of our basic problems. There is no need today for anyone to go hungry or inadequately clad, but we do have the basic problem of providing adequate housing. I will fight for a continuation of our low-income public housing, but also for the development of an adequate middle-income program, which is so essential to the well-being of this country. If I am elected to the United States Senate next November, I will fight in the Senate for the affirmative uses of the resources of the federal government to better develop the economy of Massachusetts and New England.
Who can fight and fight till he wins? Kennedy can, Kennedy can. Who can do the job he begins? Kennedy can, Kennedy can.
Me levantaba pronto e iba a hacer visitas a las fábricas. Visitaba 4 o 5 fábricas por la mañana y por la tarde, durante la hora de la comida. A veces dábamos un paseo por la avenida principal de un pueblo o una ciudad y luego íbamos a las fábricas y hablábamos con la gente de allí. Y luego, como de 4 o 5, paseábamos por una de las zonas más pobladas con un megáfono y recorríamos las calles. La gente que llegaba a casa del trabajo oía el megáfono que decía que yo estaba en la ciudad y que tenía muchas ganas de conocerles. Y luego íbamos por la calle intentando estrechar la mano de toda la gente que podíamos.
Congressman Kennedy, how do you feel about your race for the Senate up here?
Well, I think it's going very well, and of course, have great expectations. I think the state's going Democratic, and I think that the ticket's going to be successful.
I think I know the people of Massachusetts pretty well, and I think they know me. Never think that your vote is not needed or is unimportant. I hope you will find it possible to cast a vote, for which I will be very grateful.
Bobby, my brother Bobby, who managed the campaign, perhaps he could give us some idea more up to date of what the final figures were.
Well, I think that from what we got up to about 20 minutes ago, that you were winning by about 70,000. There's about 100,000 more votes to come in, and I think that plurality will remain. That's out of about 2,250,000. Yeah. So I think that's about 5% of the vote.
Good, fine. Well, I guess you're glad it's over, aren't you, Bobby?
I am, Jack.
Me interesaba mucho el fútbol americano cuando iba al colegio. Red Grant siempre fue un gran héroe para mí. Mi padre trabajó en el mundo del cine más tarde e hizo una película con Red Grant llamada Un minuto para jugar. Yo le vi jugar como profesional en Boston y fue entonces cuando le conocí. No creo que haya que identificar a la juventud con la vitalidad y a la vejez con la sabiduría. Creo que depende de la capacidad de la persona. Tenemos un altísimo número de jóvenes con talento en la historia de este país, como Jefferson, Hamilton y muchos más. Y también muchísimos ancianos con altísimos valores personales.
As one of the few bachelors in the Senate, and as a most eligible one, of course, are you simply swamped by invitations from Washington hostesses? I mean, you're a single man and a senator. That must make you most eligible.
Well, you would think so, but it seems, nothing seems to happen.
I met him at the home of friends of ours who'd been shamelessly matchmaking for a year, so I'm very grateful to them.
At St. Mary's Catholic Church in Newport, Rhode Island, Senator John F. Kennedy's mother and father arrived to attend the wedding of their son. The bride, Miss Jacqueline Lee Bouvier, arrives while a crowd of 3,000 watches.
Well, I met her 3 years ago at a dinner here in Washington. She used to be the inquiring photographer for the Times Herald at that time.
Was it a case of love at first sight?
Well, I don't know whether. I don't know how you describe those, but anyway, I was very interested.
Mrs. Kennedy, where did you go on your honeymoon?
We went to Acapulco, Mexico.
Do any fishing?
Yes, my husband caught a 10-foot sailfish, which he has in his office.
Is fishing one of your hobbies?
Well, I have done a lot of fishing, off and on through the years. Some down off Florida some time ago. Then during our honeymoon, we went to Mexico, and I fished down there. That's the dirtiest lot. We better just, and I went fishing down there. Let's change that.
Where would you like to live?
Well, I suppose in Boston, because, well, that's where he comes from and where he belongs. I suppose any other place you'd be sort of drifting.
You want to be with him?
Yes.
You're pretty much in love with him, aren't you?
Oh, no.
But
I said no, didn't I?
Yes, you did. You want to do it again? But I was hoping you wouldn't say anything, because your reaction was wonderful. It was great. You are pretty much in love with him, aren't
I
you?
suppose so. Instead of like most young brides who have a husband with a 9-to-5 job, I married a whirlwind, and I found it rather hard to adjust. But now I think politics is one of the most rewarding lives a woman can have, to be married to a politician. I think every woman wants to feel needed, and in politics you are, so much more than in many other fields.
Well, now that you're the wife of a senator, do you ever give your husband any political advice?
No, I wouldn't dare.
Is it true that you cook a hot lunch at home and send it over to the Senate so that he'll be sure and eat when he's
working? Yes, because for years he never ate lunch. Or he'd have sort of a saltine at 4 in the afternoon and get so thin.
I see.
So now we trap him in his office.
Do you have any political ambitions for your husband? You know, he's being mentioned as a possible nominee, vice presidential nominee.
Well, just whatever he has for himself, I have for him.
Well, I would first say that I would assume that it would be difficult for anybody to refuse and that I would accept if I were asked. But I must say in all honesty that I don't think I'm going to be asked.
John Kennedy is something fresh. John Kennedy brings the vigor and youth and the fresh breezes that blow through this great nation of ours. John Kennedy has a voice and a personality that will appeal to young people. I give you Jack Kennedy as the next vice presidential nominee and the next vice president of the United States.
Texas proudly casts its vote for that fighting sailor who wears the scars of battle and that fearless senator, the next vice president of the United States, John Kennedy of Massachusetts.
Después de 1956, fui candidato a la vicepresidencia compitiendo con Este Me ganó por unos 20 votos en la convención. Alguien dijo una vez que la política no se comprende del todo hasta que uno no es derrotado. Es entonces cuando se muestran claros todos los misterios. La gente no se da cuenta de lo que le está pidiendo a un político cuando quiere que haga lo correcto, porque, aunque él quiere hacer lo que debe, eso significa que tiene que dejar su carrera y renunciar a los intereses que tiene en su trabajo y a la seguridad de su familia y a todas esas cosas. Y eso es pedir un enorme sacrificio.
Good morning, all you ladies who may be there. I'm very happy that you could be with us at home with all of my family this morning. If you would like to call with any questions about my record in the Senate or my stand on any issue, please call me right now at Stadium 2-0270 or Stadium 2-0271 or 0272. Jackie, Jean, and Eunice will act as my operators and give your calls to me. You think that our light bill is too high? Well, the regulation of lights and the price of those commodities comes under the state commission. It doesn't come under the federal government, and I really haven't got the information on it to give you a really intelligent answer. How many babies did you kiss in this campaign? Well, I didn't kiss enough, I guess, but I did manage to. There didn't seem to be much desire on their part, but in any case, we saw a lot of mothers whose hands we shook in. I think your wife will make a better senator than you. What do you think? I agree with her. In any case, I have the benefit of her advice, so maybe I'll improve. And now, I'd like to have you come over and meet what I hope is our greatest rooter, but is our greatest campaign worker in the future, our daughter Caroline. Caroline, why don't you come over here and see what's going on?
Election day is just 1 week away. Next Tuesday, exercise your right to vote and re-elect Senator John F. Kennedy, United States Senator.
Senator Kennedy is now in front of the Fort Atkinson Saving and Loan Association. The Senator and Mrs. Kennedy would be more than pleased to visit and chat with you. Senator John F. Kennedy from Massachusetts, candidate for the presidency of the United States.
I'm today opening my drive for victory in the Wisconsin presidential primary. This will be a positive, constructive campaign.
Newsmakers 1960. The Kennedy Campaign Organization has named its battleground for the presidential nomination, the primaries.
I have chosen to go in the primary route. If I can't win primaries, then quite obviously I'm not going to be nominated. If I could not win in Wisconsin, as it is the first major contested primary, in the sense that Senator Humphrey and I are both running against each other, I would think it would make my task a good deal more difficult if I were unsuccessful in Wisconsin. On the other hand, if I am successful in Wisconsin, I think it's going to make my task a good deal easier. So Wisconsin, in many ways, is a turning point.
Everyone is voting for Jack, 'cause he's got what all the rest lack. Everyone's to back Jack. Jack is on the right track, 'cause he's got high hope.
We are picking the next President of the United States. We are picking the leader of the free world.
Well, this week, my sister Eunice was in Wisconsin, my wife, Jackie. My two brothers are in Wisconsin, Bobby, who's really sort of directing our effort there, and my brother Teddy's there, except his wife's about to have a baby.
I would like to ask Senator Kennedy, how can we stop the religious issues that keep coming up to confuse the public?
Well, I think that, I don't mind. I must say that we shouldn't boo, because it's I am running for the presidency, which is a powerful office, given great power under the Constitution, and it is a matter of concern to a good many people, and the best way to get it answered, it seems to me, is to ask the question openly and permit me to say that I support strongly the Constitution. I support strongly the separation of church and state. I believe it's the best arrangement for our society. I'm associated with it. Ma'am, I want to assure you that if I'm elected president, or if I'm elected president, or if I continue in the Senate, that I shall continue my devotion to the Constitution and support of it. Okay.
Because I am a Catholic, and no Catholic has ever been elected president, the real issues in this campaign have been obscured. I am not the Catholic candidate for president. I am the Democratic Party's candidate for president, who happens also to be a Catholic.
Please give us your voice in the polling place.
Thanks for coming today. Thank you. Thank you.
I am Mrs. Jack Kennedy. Your vote is important to our children, our country, and our world.
Las campañas son un enorme trabajo. Algunas personas dicen que las disfrutan, pero además de la gran rutina por la que hay que pasar, siempre existe la duda de si se saldrá vencedor o no. Y la combinación de ambas cosas las convierten en un periodo muy difícil.
Just about what you expected, or were you hoping to do maybe better?
No, I think we're going to get over 55% of the vote, maybe 56, and we'll be very happy about that.
And in the White House, boy. That's right.
I want
I don't run for the office of the presidency, saying that life in the 60s will be easy, because I don't think it will be. I think it will be a very dangerous time for us all.
Your nominee and the next President of the United States, John F. Kennedy.
This is an important election. In many ways, the most important election in the history of this country. We will carry the fight to the people in the fall, and we shall win.
Vaya a donde vaya, recuérdale cuánto le quieren en casa. Nescafé descafeinado es natural.
Soy Frank Capra Jr. Mi padre es Frank Capra, el famoso director de cine.
Inventar el cine fue todo un reto para los pioneros del naciente Hollywood.
Frank Capra fue uno de ellos. Soñador, alegre, divertido, creó su propio estilo.
Creo que, como puede verse por la respuesta del público a sus películas, estas tienen mucho que decirnos todavía hoy. Creo que todos necesitamos grandes dosis de su optimismo y de su confianza en nosotros mismos.
Situaciones asombrosas, luchas cotidianas, fuertes sentimientos. Y por encima de todo, actores. Grandes actores en manos de un director de carácter. Frank Capra.
Frank Capra está con ustedes en la 2.
Los jueves por la noche en Cine Club, Películas con Firma, en la 2.
K-E-double-N-E-D-Y. Jack's the nation's favorite guy. Everyone wants to back Jack.
This is your old friend Cab Calloway, folks, singing in praise of Senator John Kennedy, the man I'm swinging my vote to on November the 8th.
Ella Fitzgerald swinging on down to vote for Senator John F. Kennedy for president. He's it.
Come on and vote for Kennedy.
I'm taking our case to the American people. The issue is before you. And I am confident that in November, you'll make a choice for progress, not for standing still.
Kennedy, just keep rolling along. For Kennedy.
What about you, Mrs. Kennedy? What did you think of it?
Unbelievable. I'm speechless. I've never seen anything like it.
I run against a candidate who reminds me of the symbol of his party, the circus elephant, his head full of ivory, a long memory and no vision, and you have seen elephants being led around the circus ring. They grab the tail of the elephant in front of them.
Can you imagine if this country elects a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate and elects Dick Nixon, Republican President of the United States, and then Lyndon Johnson and Sam Rayburn go over to meet with him as the leader of the Congress and sit down with Dick Nixon, who in 1952 said Adlai Stevenson had a degree from the Cowardly College of Containment, in 1954 called Truman a traitor, in 1960 called me a liar, in 1960 called Lyndon an ignoramus. Lyndon says he called me one. No, I say he called Lyndon one. He called me rash, imprudent, reckless, naive, and uninformed, but he called Lyndon an ignoramus. You think he's going to go down and work with him?
They say, repudiate Eisenhower. And may I say, I am sick and tired of hearing my opponent run down the President of the United States and his administration. Oh, I know. After he hits him below the belt, he says, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't mean Eisenhower. I meant Nixon.
To show how desperate and despicable this campaign has become, they're handing outside defense plants a poster which says, Jack Kennedy is after your job. I'm after Mr. Eisenhower's job.
I just want to see if the position of the left turn is right. Will you take count of two, please, Roger?
What does the cut? The cut means that's it.
Get out, Grace.
5 seconds. Right?
No, what I mean is you want to quit quickly, or how well, much? we figure when you see 30 seconds,
then try to bring it. All right.
And then the cut is, that's it. And then Howard will give you a few seconds over the cut, and then bang,
yeah, I
bang.
understand. Sure. We'll
come on. Stay right there, Mr. Ken. Get pull the pulleys back entirely, please. Looking right at the camera here. Do that again. Take care. Take it again, Candy. Look this way, please.
All right, one more.
Thank you. Okay.
Now.
Can we clear the shot now? Will everybody just move back, please? Will you hit the 1-minute switch, please?
You hear me now, speaking? Is that about the right tone of voice? It is a pleasure to be here tonight and to participate in this program, which opens up a series of discussions.
Let me make one thing clear. Senator Kennedy has a responsibility to criticize those things that are wrong, but he has also a responsibility to be right in his criticism.
I really don't need Mr. Nixon to tell me about what my responsibilities are as a citizen. I've served this country for 14 years in the Congress, and before that in the service. I have just as high a devotion, just as high an opinion. What I downgrade, Mr. Nixon, is the leadership the country's getting, not the country.
From Election Central in New York, NBC News reports election night 1960.
Let's take a look at the total figures on the popular vote. It stayed very close throughout the evening. Neither one has pulled away at any time.
The odds have now shifted in favor of Vice President Nixon carrying.
Here we come back to the powerhouse again in the West, the 32 electoral votes of California, and they still show that Kennedy will lead the state.
And in Oklahoma, a vast victory for Nixon, far more. Kennedy still ahead.
Utah, Nixon over Kennedy, 4 electoral
4
votes.
minutes to sunrise here in the East. In Illinois, 6:31.
A slightly shifting race, but Kennedy still well ahead.
They show Kennedy's lead down to just about 700,000, the closest election of this generation.
I am sure that many are listening here who are supporting Mr. Senator Kennedy. I know, too, that he probably is listening to this program. As I look at the board here,
if the present trend continues, if Mr. Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, will be the next President of the United States.
I ask your help in this effort, and I can assure you that every degree of mind and spirit that I possess will be devoted to the long-range interests of the United States and to the cause of freedom around the world. So now my wife and I prepare for a new administration and for a new baby. Thank you.
It is time, in short, for a new generation of leadership. All over the world, particularly in the newer nations, young men are coming to power. Men who are not bound by the traditions of the past. Men who are not blinded by the old fears and hates and rivalries.
You, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
And will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Pedí a Robert Frost que viniera y hablara el día de la inauguración porque creía que tenía algo importante que decir a todos aquellos que estamos metidos en el trabajo del gobierno. Que nos recordaría que estábamos tratando con la vida, con las esperanzas y temores de millones de personas. Lo ha expresado muy bien en un poema titulado Elige algo como una estrella, en el que habla de la estrella que más lejana y débil se ve y que dice: nos pide poco de nosotros, nos pide cierta altura. Así pues, cuando a veces la gente se deja llevar y llega demasiado lejos elogiando o culpando, podemos escoger algo como una estrella para detener nuestra mente en ella y que nos contenga.
When power leads man towards arrogance, poetry reminds him
of his limitations. When power narrows the areas of man's concern, poetry reminds him of the richness and diversity of his existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses.
I have several announcements to make. First is one made at the request of Mrs. Kennedy. Since the election, the birth of our son, and the inauguration, Mrs. Kennedy and I have received over 100,000 letters and telegrams of congratulations and good wishes. They are now building up in available rooms at the White House. Unfortunately, it's not going to be possible for us to acknowledge and answer as we would like to answer each and every message. And therefore, I wish to take this opportunity on behalf of Mrs. Kennedy and myself to thank everyone who has been so kind and generous.
Mr. President, ever since you permitted the telecast of press conferences, a great deal of attention has been paid to little things that occur, especially in the home offices of newspapers. Would you save us a couple of hours' work tonight and explain what the Band-Aid is doing on your left hand?
Well, I cut my finger when I was cutting bread. Unbelievable as it may sound.
Creo que la prensa es un arma muy valiosa para la presidencia, porque creo que no existe ninguna duda de que si no tuviéramos una prensa libre y con capacidad crítica, habría una tendencia mucho mayor hacia limitar la información que le llega al presidente. Existe un gran mito sobre que al presidente solo se le cuenten las cosas buenas. Eso es una de las cosas más falsas. En primer lugar, cuando recibes todas las mañanas el resumen de las noticias, siempre incluye los puntos críticos del mundo. Nunca dice que las cosas vayan muy bien en Túnez, porque en general siempre hay que tomar alguna medida. Por tanto, al comenzar con los periódicos de la mañana y el resumen de las noticias, siempre te estás enterando de malas noticias. Debo decir que resulta difícil determinar qué cosas son éxitos y cuáles fracasos, porque cada éxito viene acompañado de la posibilidad del fracaso y cada fracaso de la posibilidad del éxito. Hasta ahora, desde luego, la mayor decepción ha sido el desastre de abril de 1961 en Cuba. Y supongo que nuestra mayor satisfacción fue cuando conseguimos la retirada de los misiles ofensivos en Cuba, más o menos un año después.
Ladies and gentlemen, the author, the producer, the director, and the star of Mr. Khrushchev's new play hit in Moscow. A funny thing happened to me on my way to Cuba. The President of the United States.
We have the 6 award winners. They represent 4 nations, and we would like to have them come forward and to accept these awards. Sarge, would you give us directions?
Oh, there's a movie to be shown of each one.
The first is Mr. John Fettinger.
Yes, but there will be a movie shown of each one.
I think
we'll just put the lights go down.
This is the way this administration is really run. Now what do we do, Sarge?
Pasar de ser senador a ser presidente supone un cambio tremendo. Yo diría que los problemas son más difíciles de lo que imaginaba. Las responsabilidades que tiene Estados Unidos, mayores también de lo que imaginaba, así como las limitaciones sobre nuestra capacidad de poder lograr un resultado favorable. Resulta mucho más fácil pronunciar los discursos que emitir finalmente un juicio sobre las cosas, porque desgraciadamente la opinión de mis consejeros suele estar dividida. Si escoges el camino equivocado, y a mí a veces me ha pasado, el presidente soporta la carga. La responsabilidad es tremenda.
Mr. President, your brother Ted recently on television said that after seeing the cares of office on you, that he wasn't sure he'd ever be interested in being the president. I wonder if you could tell us whether, if you had it to do over again, you would work for the presidency, and whether you can recommend the job to others.
Well, the answer is the
first is yes, and the second is no. I don't recommend it to others, at least for a while.
A personal question, sir, if I may. It's been reported that you've returned to playing golf again. I wonder if you could tell us how you feel and how you enjoyed returning to what has been reported one of your favorite sports.
I like it. I didn't think I was going to play golf again until my trip. I don't want to get into a discussion of back difficulties, but my trip to Europe, I think, helped getting out of that office did something, so I enjoy it.
The Vice President once said the only thing keeping us going, not the programs, but my wife and Caroline, but we believe that the programs are also important.
I think the major role of the First Lady is to take care of the President so he can best serve the people. She can't expect to be a completely private person. She will have an official role which she must play and accept with grace, and to not fail her family, her husband and her children.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking to you from the White House. Yeah. Wait a minute, John. Wait a sec. Don't say anything, because I got to give this speech. Can you sit down over there now and be a good boy?
John.
Come on now, be a good boy. John, you know we're going by helicopter to the airport tomorrow morning. Do you want to do that?
I'm going to go in a helicopter tomorrow.
Just shortly after the Bay of Pigs, I asked you how you liked being president. And as I remember, you said you liked it better before the event. Now you've had a chance to appraise your job. Why do you like it, and why do you want to stay in office 4 more years?
Well, I find the work rewarding. Whether I'm going to stay and what my intentions are and all the rest seems to me still many months away. But as far as the job of president goes, it's rewarding, and I've given before to this group the definition of happiness of the Greeks. I'll define it again: the full use of your powers along lines of excellence. I find that, therefore, the president provides some happiness.
Paso mucho tiempo fuera de casa y es un trabajo agotador. Está muy involucrado en tu vida y la presión es tremenda y las responsabilidades son enormes. Soy el representante del partido político más antiguo de Estados Unidos y uno de los más antiguos del mundo aún existente. Eso es una enorme responsabilidad. Me gusta sentir que puedo con ella, pero la presión es tremenda. Ahora mismo llevo encima una enorme carga.
Final judgment of anybody in an administration in the 60s is, have the vital interests of the United States been protected? Has peace been maintained? Is there greater stability in the world than when he came in? And did all citizens participate more fully in the life of the country? Now, that's what I'll rest on whenever I'm finished.
The President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the trademark. I was on Simmons Freeway earlier, and even the freeway was jam-packed with spectators waiting their chance to see the President as he made his way towards the trademark. It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. There has been a shooting. Parkland Hospital has been advised to stand by for a severe gunshot wound. The presidential car coming up now. We can see Mrs. Kennedy's pink suit. There's a Secret Service man, spread eagle, over the top of the car. We can't see who has been hit, if anybody's been hit, but apparently something is wrong here. Something is terribly wrong.
We shall all stand by then and just relay the information as it comes in. Obviously, it's going to be sketchy for some time because you can imagine what is happening to every circuit. Obviously, the circuits are jammed. I would assume that the memory of every person listening at this moment has flashed back to that day in April 1945 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt...
Excuse me, Chad. Here is a flash from the Associated Press, Dateline Dallas. 2 priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. There is no further confirmation, but this is what we have on a flash basis from the Associated Press. 2 priests in Dallas who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds.
White House Press Secretary Malcolm Kilduff has just announced that President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is about 35 minutes ago.
After being shot at...
After being shot...
By an unknown assailant...
By an unknown assailant...
During a motorcade drive through downtown Dallas.
During a motorcade drive through downtown Dallas.
The President died...
The President died...
Approximately 25 minutes...
Approximately 25 minutes...
After the attack took place.
After the attack took place.
Just before the announcement of the President's death was made...
Just before the announcement of the President's death was made...
Vice President Lyndon Johnson...
Vice President Lyndon Johnson...
emerged grim-faced...
Emerged grim-faced...
And was driven off with a police escort...
And was driven away with a police escort...
To
assume...
The constitutional responsibilities...
The constitutional responsibilities...
Of the presidency.
Of the presidency.
The American flag atop the White House here in Washington has been lowered to half-mast. It came down shortly afterward. There was confirmation of the president's death in Dallas. In the White House itself, the president's 2 children are still there, Caroline and John Jr. We do not know yet if they have been informed of their father's death.
And here is the plane now. Made the flight back from Dallas. Plane coming in here at Andrews Air Force Base, just outside Washington. Cabinet officers, diplomats, senators, congressmen come out here in the dark.
The men are now struggling with the casket, struggling to get it out of the plane. Behind the casket is Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy. To her right is her brother-in-law, the Attorney General, Robert Kennedy. They are helping her down out of that carrier that has just brought down the casket. Mrs. Lyndon Johnson is holding the new president's hand.
Mrs. Kennedy is apparently getting into the ambulance, the Navy ambulance, with the casket. Now President Johnson is moving towards the Army helicopter for the flight to the White House. The Navy ambulance moves off with the casket.
And so, events which started swiftly, completely unexpectedly and shockingly in Dallas only a matter of about 5 hours ago have gone virtually full circle. The President and the late President are, in a sense, back home, back in the nation's capital. The business of running and governing this nation will go on. Frank?
It is safe enough to say that this afternoon, wherever you were and whatever you might have been doing when you received the word of the death of President Kennedy, that is a moment that will be emblazoned in your memory, and you will never forget it as long as you live.
Anhelo un estupendo futuro para América. Un futuro en el que nuestro país iguale su fuerza militar con nuestros límites morales, su riqueza con nuestra sabiduría, su poder con nuestro fin. Anhelo una América que no tenga miedo a la gracia y la belleza, que proteja la belleza de nuestro entorno natural. Y anhelo un mundo seguro, no solo para la democracia y la diversidad, sino también para la distinción personal.
But also for personal distinction.
Verdaderamente, no sé la razón por la que todos nos sentimos tan vinculados al mar. Creo que es porque, además del hecho de que el mar cambia y la luz cambia y los barcos cambian, es porque todos procedemos del mar. Todos tenemos en nuestras venas exactamente la misma proporción de sal en la sangre que la que existe en el océano. Por tanto, tenemos sal en nuestra sangre, en nuestro sudor, en nuestras lágrimas. Estamos vinculados al océano. Y cuando volvemos al mar, ya sea para navegar o para contemplarlo, estamos regresando al lugar de donde procedemos.